At the Centennial celebration dinner of the Porter Group, I accidentally wore the bracelet of Robert's ex-wife. Simon, who was 7 years old, pushed me down the stairs in public and then poured champagne all over me. He looked down at me from the steps, his eyes as cold and full of disgust as his father's. "What kind of thing are you to be worthy of wearing my mother's bracelet? Don't think that just because you try to please me, you can replace her. When I grow up, I will definitely drive you out of the Porter family." The evening breeze blew gently, extinguishing the last trace of warmth in my heart. Looking at this child whom I had raised since his birth, I suddenly understood. I got up in a sorry state and looked at him calmly. "You don't have to wait until you grow up. I'll leave tomorrow." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I limped up the steps step by step, ignoring all the inquiring gazes, and prepared to go to the room to change my clothes. But Simon suddenly rushed over and raised his hand to slap me angrily. I instinctively raised my hand to block it, and my wrist hit the railing. The bracelet broke with a snap. This was my mother's favorite bracelet. "You bitch actually dared to break it." Simon's eyes instantly turned red. He stared at me fiercely, his face full of hatred. I was silent for a long time before sighing silently. "Simon, you're lying. This bracelet was a wedding gift from my grandmother when I got married." He was taken aback, but soon regained his arrogant look. "So what? I said you can't wear it, and you can't wear it." After saying that, he gave me a cold snort and turned around and ran away. I didn't chase after him to explain as I usually did. When the banquet ended and I returned to the old Porter family house, the nanny at home looked as if she wanted to say something but held back. I immediately rushed towards the bedroom. From a distance, I could smell a strong smell of blood. When I opened the door, my little dog was lying on the bed covered in blood, and my photos were torn to pieces by a utility knife on the ground. Seeing the sadness on my face, Simon burst into laughter. "This is the punishment for you offending me." After saying that, he stepped on my photo and shook his head triumphantly. "I'm so happy to see you so sad." Then he stuck out his tongue at me and ran away laughing. I don't understand why such a young child would have such great hatred for me. After my grandmother passed away, besides the bracelet she left me, only this little dog accompanied me. It accompanied me through one sleepless night after another and accompanied me as I raised Simon from a crying baby into a young boy. But on this night, I lost everything. When Robert came back, I was still sitting on the ground in a daze. It wasn't until the sound of leather shoes rang out that he looked down at me, the contempt and indifference in his eyes exactly the same as Simon's. He didn't even look at the mess in the room. He just frowned and solemnly accused me. "Michelle, you were in the wrong today." Seeing that I didn't get up or answer, his tone was full of impatience. "Simon is only 7 years old. He's still a child. What are you arguing with him about?" With his casual word, "child," it seemed that he could smooth over everything. But what about my little dog? How innocent it was. Seeing that my face looked unhappy, he softened his tone rarely. "I'll ask my secretary to buy you another one in a few days." Then he waved his hand in disgust, and the nanny stuffed my little dog into a garbage bag. Soon, the bloodstains and glass shards in the room were cleaned up. My little dog was as if it had never existed, just like me. After taking care of their father and son meticulously for 7 years, it was just like water passing without leaving a trace. After taking a shower, Robert sat at the head of the bed and stuffed the hairdryer into my hand, motioning for me to dry his hair. I instinctively went to look for the socket, but unexpectedly, he hugged my waist. 3 days later, there will be a new perfume launch event of the Porter family. You'll go with me. Every perfume of the Porter family was personally formulated by Robert. It was his way of missing his sister. So every year at the perfume launch event, he would refuse my attendance on the grounds that we weren't married. Even if the whole internet mocked me as just his mistress, he didn't care. The wet hair soaked through my clothes, making me feel cold to the bottom of my heart. I've been married to Robert for 7 years, and it's not that I haven't had his child. It's just that his first reaction when he learned that I was pregnant wasn't joy. Instead, he found the best doctor and had my fallopian tubes removed. I only have Melissa as my wife in this life, and I will only have one child. Your responsibility is to raise Simon. Don't think about other things you shouldn't. Giving a slap and then a sweet date is Robert's usual method. I, who should have been overjoyed or crying, refused him for the first time. "Mr. Robert, the 7-year agreement has expired. I should leave tomorrow." Robert's hand around my waist froze, And he looked at me coldly. When are you going to stop making a fuss? Simon is just a child. Besides, you're his mother. If you didn't educate him well, isn't it your fault? I haven't even held you accountable. But you're the one making trouble. Mother. I looked at him indifferently. When did Robert and his son ever treat me as a wife and a mother? Back then, Robert, who was the prince of the Beijing circle, fell in love with my sister at first sight and insisted on marrying her. But the elders of the Porter family all disagreed. In a fit of anger, he eloped with my sister to a foreign country. The two of them lived a very happy life, just like being in honey. But the Porter family only had this one heir, and Robert had to come back to inherit the family business. The two of them had a car accident on the way home. My sister, who was already pregnant, had a difficult labor and bled to death, leaving only a premature son. The family didn't want to give up Robert as an ATM, so they asked me to go to the Porter family to take care of my little nephew. However, Robert didn't want to marry me, even though I had the title of Mrs. Porter and had been Simon's mother for 7 years. I had never gotten a marriage certificate with Robert. It's not unreasonable for the outside world to say that I'm his mistress. I pursed my lips. Mr. Robert, you promised that you would let me go when Simon reached the age for school. Originally, I'm not your wife. Staying in the Porter family like this isn't good for your reputation either. Hearing my words, Robert's cold face softened a little. The look in his eyes when he looked up at me was even gentle. If you go to the launch event with me, who dares to gossip? As for other things, it's not impossible. No need. I interrupted the words he hadn't said yet. I was pointed at and called a bastard all through the first half of my life. I don't want to be pointed at and called a mistress in the second half of my life. Simon has reached the age for school, and I've already found an international school for him. I really don't know how to raise children. As for everything in the old Porter family house, there are nannies to take care of it, and they don't need me. Robert grabbed my waist and threw me onto the bed. He looked down at me disdainfully, the tenderness in his eyes gone, and his voice was cold. Michelle, who do you think you are? You can't just come and go in this Porter family as you please. Accompany me to the launch event in 3 days. You have no choice. The door was slammed shut with a bang, making the wall shake. The oil painting hanging on the wall instantly fell to the ground and shattered. Looking at the fragments all over the ground, I bit my lips, but still couldn't hold back my tears. That painting was painted for me by Robert himself. But the person in the painting wasn't me, but my sister. The day before I came to the Porter family to take care of Simon, Ms. Wilson warned me, if it weren't for my daughter's tragic fate and the fact that you look like her, you, a shameless bitch, wouldn't even have the chance. You'd better be on your best behavior when you're in the Porter family and take good care of my little grandson. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. What she said was indeed true. In the 7 years I've been by Robert's side, if it weren't for the fact that my profile looked very much like my sister's, he wouldn't have painted for me when he was free. This was one of the few tender moments I could remember. From childhood to adulthood, only when Robert painted for me could I feel a trace of warmth. But 7 years of time have made me understand that all of this is actually false. The door was kicked open. Simon rushed in angrily, still holding the high-end custom-made dress that Robert had prepared for me in his hand. His eyes were red, and he stared at me with deep hatred. You bad woman. As I expected. You want to replace my mother. You still want to go to the launch event. In your dreams. As he cursed, he used scissors to cut the dress to pieces. Only when he saw that the dress was completely ruined did he become happy. He even stepped on the dress several times, afraid that he would hurt himself with the scissors. I reached out to grab them, but he waved his hand and made a long cut on my arm. The blood soaked through my clothes. His eyes panicked for a moment, but he still said confidently, as long as you stay in my house for 1 more day, I won't make it easy for you. Holding my bleeding arm, I completely lost all hope. 7 years of taking care of them closely only earned me the resentment and indifference of these father and son. Don't hurt yourself. Go to bed early. I gave a final reminder and turned around to close the door. I packed my things, but I couldn't leave because Miss Wilson came. She was dressed in famous brands and was covered in jewels. When she saw the suitcase in my hand, she softened her tone for the first time. Michelle, Simon is your nephew after all. Do you really want to see him all alone? No matter what, you staying in the Porter family is for our own good. Otherwise, if Robert gets married and has children in the future, we might end up with nothing. In the end, She just couldn't bear to part with the villa and the BMW that Robert gave her and was afraid of losing all this wealth and glory. I smiled indifferently, and the playful voices of the two people walking towards me interrupted what I was going to say. Aunt Rita, I've missed you so much. Simon held Rita's hand and acted coquettishly. Rita smiled and picked him up, affectionately rubbing his face. Is that so? Then why didn't you come to find me? Simon rolled his eyes at me, then hugged Rita's neck. If I keep going to see you, Dad will be unhappy. Besides, if I go to see you, who will help me deal with the bad woman? I made her lose face yesterday. Looking at Simon's proud smile, my heart couldn't stop hurting. When he was 3 years old, he had a high fever that wouldn't go down. I stayed with him in the hospital ward for 3 days and 3 nights without closing my eyes. Later, when I wanted to make some porridge for him, I fainted in the kitchen. Sparks ignited the curtains, and I was almost burned to death. Fortunately, he was worried about me and ran out to look for me. When he saw the fire in the kitchen, he cried nonstop, which finally attracted the security guards. After that, he hugged my neck and cried so hard that he was out of breath. Auntie, I can't live without you. At that time, how could I have imagined that the little nephew who cried and called me auntie would stab me in the heart again and again? This seemingly gentle woman greeted me with a smile, but the words she said were full of provocation. Simon is young. Miss Michelle, don't be angry. How ridiculous. The child whom I accompanied carefully for many years obeyed others. After they left, I looked at Miss Wilson. You see, Simon doesn't lack people to take care of him. Rita was originally just a waitress in a restaurant, but with a face that was 7 points similar to my sister's. She could easily win the hearts of this father and son. Robert handed over the entire perfume production line to her. In front of others, he held her hand tightly, and they seemed like a real family. Ms. Wilson glared at me and said with a cold face, "Do you really decide to leave?" I said firmly, "I don't have many more 7 years to waste." Before I could finish my words, she raised her hand and slapped me. After all, you're the bastard daughter born to a shameless mistress. You're just hopeless. If it weren't for me taking pity on you and raising you, you would have died outside long ago. Back then, my father pretended to be a rich second-generation bachelor outside and deceived my mother who had just come from the countryside. Later, when my mother had me, she found out that my father was already married. She was blocked by Miss Wilson at school and was humiliated to the extreme. The whole world knew that she was a mistress who seduced a married man. When she was heartbroken, she gave birth to me in a rented room and then jumped off the building and committed suicide. If I wasn't really the daughter of the Wilson family and it was illegal for them to abandon me, what chance would I have of surviving? When the second slap was about to fall, I blocked Miss Wilson's hand. In the past 30 years, I have given everything for the Wilson family. I don't owe you anything. I suffered humiliation and abuse in the Wilson family since I was a child. Ms. Wilson would beat and scold me to vent her anger when she was unhappy. I grew up to be 18 years old without ever going to school for a single day. In the past 7 years, in the Porter family, I was just a tool for Robert to vent his emotions. I took care of Simon wholeheartedly and gave him everything I could. But what was the result? All I got in return was that the jade bracelet my grandmother gave me was smashed. My little dog died. And Robert even had my fallopian tubes removed, cutting off my possibility of becoming a mother. I have done my best and no longer owe anyone anything. The only person I'm sorry for is myself. Ms. Wilson left angrily. I turned around and met Robert's complicated gaze. He beckoned to me, just like treating a disobedient little dog. I stood there without moving. Robert's face immediately showed a hint of impatience. Michelle, you're a smart person. You should understand that if you leave the Porter family, you have nowhere to go. I've already asked my secretary to buy you a dog with a purer bloodline and a more valuable bracelet. If you think Simon is difficult to discipline, Rita can help you. From today on, she will live in the Porter family house with you. Robert stared at me with a cold look. It seemed that he was waiting for me to happily accept it, obediently submit with gratitude, and then take care of their father and son together with Rita. But I didn't want to anymore. Just make the decision. It has nothing to do with me anymore. Rita walked out from behind Robert. I know Miss Michelle doesn't welcome me. I'd better leave. After all, someone like me without a proper status is not worthy of taking care of Simon. She looked like a weeping beauty and pretended to walk towards the door. But she hadn't taken 2 steps when Robert stopped her. It's just a matter of status. It's all up to my decision. If you can get pregnant, I can make you the real Mrs. Porter. After glancing at me, he picked Rita up around the waist. The door of the villa was kicked shut by him. The nanny and the butler all scurried out in a flash. Simon looked at me proudly. Aunt Rita is gentle and kind. Only she is worthy of being my mother. Looking at this child whom I had raised since he was a baby, I was shocked. Do you really think so? Yes. You vicious woman. Don't think I don't know. It was you who seduced my father that caused my mother to die of massive hemorrhage during a difficult labor. Someday I will avenge my mother. I looked at the amulet on his chest and sighed. Simon was a premature baby and had been weak and sickly since childhood. In order to ensure his safe growth, I took care of everything related to his food, clothing, housing, and transportation personally. I even gave him the amulet that my mother left me. In 7 years, countless days and nights of care and company were not as good as the provocation of a few words from an outsider. I reached out my hand towards the amulet around Simon's neck. He instinctively raised his hand to block it. If you dare to hit me, I'll ask Dad to drive you out. But I just untied the amulet from his neck. Simon, you're already 7 years old. Even if you don't understand some things now, you will understand them in the future. It's my fault that I didn't raise you well. There will be better people to take care of you in the future. As for us, we probably won't see each other again in this lifetime. Under Simon's puzzled gaze, I picked up my luggage and headed to the airport. The old Porter family house quickly receded and gradually disappeared from my sight. I knew that after I left, Robert would bring someone new to take care of Simon. But all that had nothing to do with me anymore. After wasting 30 years of my life, it was time for me to live for myself. Just as I was about to board the plane, a big hand reached around from behind me and snatched the airplane ticket from my hand. The cold and indifferent voice made me tremble. Michelle, where do you think you're going? I turned around and just met Robert's angry eyes. His stern side face was as resolute as ever, and the chill around him made people dare not approach. But my gaze fell on his neck, and I saw several red hickeys. During the 7 years I was with him, he never let me kiss him. He said that only his sister could kiss him. I naively thought that he loved his sister deeply, but now it seemed that it was all because he didn't love me. I suddenly shook off his hand. Mr. Robert, it's time for me to board the plane. The coldness in Robert's eyes grew stronger. Stop making a fuss. Come home with me. Home. The old Porter family house was their home, not mine. Ever since the day my mother and grandmother passed away, I had no home. I lowered my eyes. Mr. Robert, you said you would let me go. These words sounded like a joke to Robert. He suppressed his anger. What nonsense are you talking about? When did I say I would let you go? Come back with me quickly. Do you really think you can board the plane? He raised his eyes and glanced at the boarding gate. Without my order, I don't believe this plane can take off. The viciousness in his eyes made me feel scared. I really didn't understand. Since he didn't care about me at all, why didn't he let me leave? Was it really so satisfying for him to keep me by his side and play with me? There seemed to be a lump of anger stuck in my chest. I gritted my teeth tightly. Mr. Robert, it's you who should stop being unreasonable. Even if you don't let me go today, I will leave tomorrow. You can't stop me, unless you break my legs. But you can control my body, not my heart. A hint of viciousness flashed across Robert's face. If you insist on leaving, I don't mind making you disabled. I knew he could do it. But now I didn't want to argue with him at all. I just wanted to leave. I took a deep breath and looked at him coldly. Robert, don't go too far. Perhaps my resistance made him feel embarrassed. He didn't say a word and directly grabbed my arm. The wound on my arm that was scratched by Simon with scissors yesterday was pulled, and my face was filled with pain. Robert was taken aback and instinctively asked, "What's wrong with you?" Then he tried to roll up my sleeve. Seeing that more and more people were gathering around, all looking at us curiously, I was so angry that my face turned red, and I couldn't break free. Without thinking, I slapped him backhand. Slap. Not only Robert but everyone was stunned. The bodyguards who were originally watching the scene were all shocked and hurriedly surrounded us. Just as they were about to take me away by force, Robert angrily shouted. He stared at me coldly, his face full of viciousness. You really want to leave so much? Do you really want to leave me? His voice wasn't loud, but it made me shiver all over. In the past 7 years, I had been used to obeying him. No matter what he did or said, I wouldn't resist in the slightest. Seeing my face change, a trace of sadness seemed to appear in Robert's eyes. He softened his tone. Michelle, do you really want to leave? Even the secretary who had always disliked me couldn't help but persuade me. Miss Michelle, don't be angry anymore. You're the only Mrs. Porter in this family. Why are you making a fuss? If you leave, there will be no chance for you to come back. Yes, in the eyes of everyone, I should be grateful for my current life and for everything Robert had given me. It was him who made me Mrs. Porter, and it was him who saved me from my previous difficult life. But who knew that the Porter family was just another bottomless pit for me? Seeing my sad expression, the secretary said eagerly, "Do you know how many people are eager to sleep with Mr. Robert? If you leave, you'll just leave the opportunity to others. Miss Michelle, Mr. Robert is always different to you. Why bother?" Yes, why bother? The Porter family had power and influence, and wealth and glory were right in front of me. There was also a man who seemed deeply in love by my side. How could I be so ungrateful? But no one cared how I would spend the rest of my life or what kind of life I had by Robert's side. Those sleepless nights and those moments of crying alone were all things I endured alone, swallowing my pain and tears, remembering the tragic scene of my little dog dying in front of me. I resolutely shook my head. "I'm sure I want to leave." As soon as I said this, Robert's face became even more gloomy. He had never thought that I would dare to resist him and that I would dare to leave him. Meeting his cold eyes, I said word by word, "I'm not a good mother. It's my fault that Simon has become like this. I didn't educate him well. I'm not a good owner either. My little dog accompanied me for 10 years, but I couldn't let it die a natural death. Similarly, I'm not a good wife. Robert, I can't meet your requirements. I can't be a Mrs. Porter who turns a blind eye and a deaf ear. I'm a human being, and I have a heart. So Robert, please let me go." Hearing my resolute words, Robert sneered and turned away with a gloomy face. He only left a sentence, "Michelle, you will regret it." Before boarding the plane, I took out my SIM card, broke it, and threw it into the trash can. As the plane took off, the city quickly shrank and gradually disappeared from sight. This was the place where I had stayed for 7 years, a cage that had trapped me for 7 years. I let out a long sigh. Finally, I had gotten rid of all the shackles. I hadn't felt this kind of freedom for a long time. Everything about the Porter family had trapped me for too long, making me unable to be happy for a moment in the first half of my life. I had to be cautious all the time, afraid of making mistakes and being laughed at. Now, I could laugh and cry freely, and no one would care about me anymore. I walked aimlessly, from the north to the south, from the distant desert to the misty Jiangnan. Finally, I stayed by the Tsangshan Mountain and Arai Lake. I opened a tavern here, receiving strangers who came and went, listening to them talk about the difficulties of their past lives and their hopes for the future. I have met old people who are on the verge of death and young people who are full of vitality. As long as I sit at the bar and listen to the folk songs, the sadness in my heart will also dissipate with the wind. One day, as usual, I opened the door of the tavern, but I was so scared by the person who suddenly fell down that I took several steps back. The person was lying on the ground, breathing steadily, and it seemed that he was asleep. After taking care of Simon for many years, I could tell something was wrong with this person at a glance. I quickly asked my neighbor to help me carry him into the house. Then I gently touched his forehead with my finger, and as expected, he had a high fever. His face was pale, and his lips were so dry that they seemed to be cracked. Just like when I took care of Simon, I first gave him some water to drink, and then I invited a doctor to give him an 4 drip. When he woke up, I was staring blankly at the barren land in the yard. The flower seeds beside me were in a mess, and I couldn't tell them apart at all. Those brown oval ones are rose seeds, and the others are not flower seeds. I turned around and saw a handsome man. He wasn't as serene as when he was asleep. His peach blossom eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist, making people unconsciously fall into them. Seeing that I was a bit dazed, he smiled and reminded me, "Miss Michelle, you've been deceived." Victor had a handsome appearance and dressed appropriately. When he spoke, it was like a spring breeze blowing on my face. But there was always a bit of distance in his words. My gaze fell on the valuable watch on his wrist, and I couldn't help but shake my head and smile. After being with Robert for too long, this was almost my first reaction. I put down the hoe in my hand and smiled. "How are you feeling now? You really scared me when you fell at my door that day. Fortunately, the doctor said you just caught a cold, and you'll be fine after the fever goes down. You haven't eaten for 2 days, right? What would you like to eat? I can make something for you." Victor nodded. "I'm really a bit hungry. Then I'll trouble Miss Michelle." I turned around and walked into the kitchen. Soon, I cooked a bowl of noodles for him. While eating, Victor praised, "The noodles you made are no worse than those cooked by chefs in five-star hotels." Miss Michelle, have you learned cooking specially? A trace of bitterness welled up in my heart. I learned to cook this especially for Robert. He often had social gatherings until very late, and as a result, he got a stomachache. In order to take care of him, I found countless chefs before I could make the plain noodles that satisfied him. Every time he came back from a social gathering, he would ask me to make him a bowl of noodles. At that time, Robert said that it would be great if he could eat the noodles I made for the rest of his life. Under the dim light, his face looked so gentle. I didn't know if he said it casually, but I was touched. But now it seemed that it was just a perfunctory word from him. How could Robert have me in his heart? I smiled bitterly and nodded, holding back the sourness in my mouth. You can say so. If you think it's delicious, I can make another bowl for you. Victor waved his hand and just asked if he could stay here for a while. Anyway, I was the only one in this yard, and I had no objection to him staying. Just like that, Victor stayed. During the day, he helped me with the flowers and plants. At night, he could sing one or two ballads on the stage. The days passed peacefully. Michelle, look what I've prepared for you. The person in front of me smiled cunningly, and his peach blossom eyes were rippling. I also felt happy. I don't know. He raised his hand and covered my eyes, leading me to the small yard. When I opened my eyes again, I saw flowers spread all over the yard and a cake and wine glasses placed on the long table. What's all this? Victor was taken aback. Then he bent his finger and tapped my forehead. Silly. Today is your birthday. I suddenly realized. But Victor didn't know that the birthday on my ID card was actually changed by Ms. Wilson later. I didn't even know when my real birthday was. I used to think it was a pity, but now it seemed that as long as someone remembered, it didn't matter which day my birthday was. The two of us lay on the rocking chairs. Looking up, there were stars all over the sky, and looking down, there were flowers all over the ground. After drinking a few glasses of wine, Victor talked about his experience for the first time. Actually, I ran away from home without telling my family. I'm fed up with the endless disputes among them. They don't care about morality and shame for the sake of money. The whole family is fighting each other. I fell at your door that day because I was feeling bad and drank a bit too much. I didn't expect the weather in the south to be so harsh that it directly made me faint with a fever. Did I scare you? He turned to look at me, and his eyes seemed to contain the starry sky. I first shook my head and then nodded. Victor was amused by my actions and said with a hint of helplessness, "So were you scared or not?" "No. I was just a bit surprised." Victor suddenly reached out his hand and tapped me on the forehead. "You're really a strange person." He paused and then said leisurely, "You always frown all day long, as if there's something you've forgotten. Did you suffer from a broken heart? Or are you missing your sweetheart?" I smiled. "Those are all things of the past. I've already let them go." But just then, the door of the store was suddenly pushed open with great force. With a loud bang, Victor and I were both startled and instinctively turned our heads. A tall man walked in with a gloomy face. I never expected that Robert would find me here. He took 2 or 3 steps forward, directly grabbed my wrist, and pulled me up from the chair. There was madness surging in his eyes. "Let it go. Michelle, how dare you say you've let it go?" Robert's voice was cold and low. He looked down at me condescendingly. "Michelle, come back with me. Simon can't do without your care. You can't just abandon him." I pretended to be calm and met his gaze. "Why should I go back with you? I'm not sold to you." Robert sneered. "Not sold to me? Michelle, for the past 7 years, you were under me." Slap. A loud slap suddenly rang out in the quiet yard. Robert's head tilted slightly due to the sudden force, and a red mark quickly appeared on his face. This was the second time I had hit him. He looked at me in disbelief, and there was a trace of sadness mixed in his angry eyes. But at this moment, I was even angrier. I admit that I had some inappropriate thoughts in the past 7 years. But if they hadn't forced me to take care of Simon, how could all the subsequent things have happened? It was he who gave me hope and then brutally extinguished it. What right did he have to slander me now and bring up the past? My face turned red with anger, and my voice trembled. "Robert, I've already left you. The past is in the past. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Don't use those disgusting words to insult me." Meeting my gaze, Robert felt flustered for the first time. He let go of my hand, took a step forward, and instinctively wanted to explain. Victor was quick to pull me behind him. "Mr. Robert, This isn't a place where you can go crazy. Robert looked at the hand with which he was holding me and squinted unhappily. What does this have to do with you? This was between him and me, and I didn't want to implicate others. It has nothing to do with him. If you're angry, take it out on me. Seeing that I was actually protecting him, the sadness in Robert's eyes became even more obvious. Who is he? Just a few months, and you've forgotten me and are with him. Looking at Robert's hurt expression, I became even more furious. What right did he have to accuse me? I said impatiently. What does a few months have to do with you? Robert, stop deceiving yourself. You're not welcome here. Please leave and don't expect me to see you out. Robert's body trembled slightly, and the color quickly drained from his face. How can you say that? There was a crazy glimmer of hope in Robert's eyes. I'll make you change your mind. I won't give up. Robert had always been the kind of person who wouldn't stop until he achieved his goal. He stayed in the small town, went to the tavern to drink every day, and sent countless gifts and flowers. But every time, I threw those things into the trash can without exception. The grief on Robert's face was something I had never seen before. But I didn't care at all and just chased him out of the tavern. Unexpectedly, he still came on time the next day. But this time, instead of sending things, he changed into a casual suit and started working as a waiter in my store. The high and mighty Mr. Robert had never worked as a waiter before. In just half an hour, he had quarreled with 4 customers. One of the customers, who had drunk too much, directly poured wine on his head. I thought he would leave in a fit of anger, but he endured it without losing his temper. After the customers left, he put on an act and came to complain to me. Michelle, look, I can do anything for you. I was extremely annoyed by him. Victor said he could take me abroad to relax and just avoid Robert. I packed my luggage, but when I woke up the next day, I was on Robert's private plane. Looking into his calm eyes, I immediately realized what had happened. He must have monitored my phone. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known the news that I was going to leave. Robert, are you crazy? Where are you taking me? I don't want to go with you. I raised my hand to hit him, but he grabbed it. The madness and paranoia in his eyes almost scared me. This is the 3rd time you've tried to hit me. Michelle, my patience is limited. You can only stay by my side in this lifetime. Stop thinking about leaving. Don't you care at all about all the things I've done for you? I struggled desperately, but I couldn't escape his restraint. Robert, there has never been any feelings between you and me. This is all your wishful thinking. Robert showed no sign of letting go. He pulled me in front of him and forced me to look into his eyes. So what? No one can take away the things I want. As for Victor, who does he think he is to dare to compete with me? His family does have some background, but his grandfather won't let him act recklessly. Don't expect him to come and save you anymore. Didn't you want to go abroad for fun? I'll take you there now. After clearly learning that Victor was not an ordinary person, I was just a bit surprised. From his words and demeanor, I had already guessed that his background must be extraordinary. But after getting along with him for a few months, I could tell whether he had ill intentions towards me or not. Robert held my arm even tighter. He stared at my lips greedily. Michelle, I won't let you leave me again. I didn't hesitate to bite his shoulder, and blood immediately flowed. But he seemed not to feel the pain and refused to let me go. Michelle, as long as you're willing to forgive me, you can do anything to me. There was an emotion called madness surging on his face. From the day you left, I realized that I can't lose you anymore. Michelle, you must stay by my side. Don't worry, when we get back, I'll marry you, and you'll be my legitimate wife. And don't worry about Simon either. He also knows he was wrong and is waiting for us. Listening to his muttering, at this moment, I finally confirmed. Robert had gone completely crazy. In the past 7 years, I had seen his deep love for his sister, which never diminished for a single day. But now, he said he wanted me to be his only wife. How ridiculous. I knew I couldn't escape his grasp now, so I could only turn my head away and not look at him. I wanted to sit as far away from him as possible, but he pulled me back into his arms. I had always thought that Robert just saw me as a tool to vent his emotions. I never expected that the high and mighty president of the Porter family would actually fall in love with me. But he realized it too late. A broken mirror can never be put back together. My heart for him had long since died. After getting off the plane, I found that Robert hadn't taken me back to our country but to a beautiful island. Simon, who had rushed over in a hurry, had a mournful face. He hugged my waist and choked out, "Mom, don't leave me. I really miss you. I know I was wrong. No one will be as good to me as you." I miss the noodles you made for me and the children's songs you sang to me. I know I shouldn't have listened to others' instigation and suspected you. Mom, will you come back with me? I silently pushed him away. Simon, I'm not your mother. I've already done enough for you. I didn't want to argue too much with a child, but I also didn't want to forgive those who had hurt me so easily. But Mom, I really miss you. Simon hung his head and tugged at his hands. His eyes turned red in an instant, and he looked at me tearfully. Dad misses you too. Since you left, he has been sitting in your bedroom in a daze every day. Dad also found you an identical puppy. Mom, please come back with us. You're the only one in Dad's and my heart. Don't be angry anymore. I'll take good care of you in the future. I wasn't surprised by anything Robert did now. I just felt like laughing. He didn't cherish me when I was by his side, and now he regretted it after losing me. People's hearts are really fickle. I looked at the luxurious wedding venue in front of me and felt no joy in my heart at all. Simon wanted to say something more, but Robert pulled him away. He squatted down and wiped the child's tears. Don't worry, Mom won't leave again. When he looked up at me again, his eyes were filled with crazy throbbing. Michelle, whether you like it or not, you have to be willing. You have no choice. I was too lazy to argue with him and turned around to leave. But Robert grabbed my hand. He took out a diamond ring from his pocket. I recognized that ring. It was the wedding ring we used when I married Robert. But as soon as the wedding was over, he threw the wedding ring into the trash can and warned me, "Don't have any unrealistic thoughts. This is just a formality." Robert knelt down on one knee and held the ring in front of me. "Michelle, marry me. As long as you agree, I can give you anything." Before I could speak, a voice suddenly came from behind me. "She doesn't want to." Victor, accompanied by dozens of bodyguards, quickly surrounded the place. He walked towards me slowly, and every step seemed to step on my heart. "Mr. Robert, do you think you can take her away? Even if I go against my grandfather's wishes, he won't let me lose the person I like. As for you, Mr. Robert." Before he could finish his words, the phone in Robert's pocket rang, and his face immediately changed. After answering the call, there was only despair left on Robert's face. He looked at me desperately. "Michelle, do you really want to go with him? As long as you say you don't want to, even if I have to give up the Porter family, I will keep you." I sneered and took Victor's hand. "I want to." Robert almost gritted his teeth. "I met you first. So what? I've never loved you." His eyes were bloodshot. "Never." Meeting my determined gaze, Robert finally sighed and put down the ring in his hand. "Go ahead. I won't look for you again. Michelle, I'm sorry for you." Almost instantly, I took Victor's hand and turned to leave, afraid that Robert would change his mind. But Simon suddenly rushed over and raised his hand to slap me angrily. I tilted my head and looked at Victor. "Do you like me?" "No. Why else would I come to save you?" He smiled. "You're the person I want to spend my whole life with. The first time I saw you, the afterglow of the setting sun shone on his face through the glass window. And he told me, 7 years ago, when I married Robert and attended a wealthy family dinner with him, I was out of place with the dignified socialites and made a lot of jokes. But he greatly admired my casualness and freedom. At that time, I was forced to take over the family. It was you who told me that in fact, the world is vast, and it's best to follow your heart." Your words were said casually, but they gave me the courage to resist my grandfather. It was you who guided me to leave, and then we met again. This time, I won't let go of your hand. I smiled and held his hand back. This was the new life I wanted.